What's up, everybody? It's Make It Make Sense. And I told you guys, things are going to move extremely fast. So this is breaking news. There is a new victim who has come forward and filed a lawsuit. Like the video as intro plays, because we got a lot to get into. We're going to review the whole lawsuit.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense to me intellectually.
Make it make sense. You know what was up.
Big moves.
Surfer.
Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things.
Your name is right now, bad boy. Love. Well, we about to make love. And then we gonna change your name back to Diddy. Cause then we gonna Diddy. Then we gonna change your name back to Puffy. Cause that's what you gonna be when we done Diddy.
I like that.
Hold on, wait, you ain't supposed to like it. It's,
I like what you're talking about.
I don't like it if you
I hate
like it.
scrambling and scraping.
Hey,
That's a lot. I like that. I like you.
guard?
I ain't locked in here with you, playboy. You locked in here with me.
Hey, no Diddy, bro.
And grab that baby roll over there and lather up.
Lather up.
Thought I told you that. We
Hey,
won't
nah,
stop.
man, hold
Thought I
on.
told you.
Okay. So anyway, this is hot off the presses. We're just gonna keep seeing this. It is what it is. And this is a more recent one. You guys know a lot of times they say, oh, it's from 20 years ago. This was from only a couple of years ago. Not like we'll get into it, but the terminating of a pregnancy and feeling like you're forced to do that after being allegedly drugged, that's a hell of a lot for somebody to go through at the hands of a powerful man. So this person smartly is a Jane Doe. I don't blame them, especially with people feeling like some of the victims aren't victims. It is what it is. It says defendant Sean Combs is a music producer and business mogul with residences in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and other locations, who is currently the subject of multiple lawsuits, as well as a criminal investigation over his, among other crimes, abuse, assault, coercion, and intimidation of women, including the plaintiff, which have occurred over many years involving numerous victims, which were also funded, facilitated, and perpetuated by his associates, employees, and his various companies. Let's see. The parties at all times, Jane Doe is a resident of Florida. She is over the age of 18 and under 55. And you got to, with Diddy, you definitely need to say, because it could be anybody at this point. Jane Doe brings this complaint under a pseudonym because of the sensitive nature of the allegations being sexual abuse. Plaintiff fears embarrassment and further psychological damage if her identity as a victim of sexual abuse became public knowledge. Again, I don't blame anybody who does not feel comfortable. It's just important that they get their voice out. We got over 1,000 in the chat. Definitely hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Facts relevant to all causes of actions. This is an action for injuries and damages suffered by plaintiff Jane Doe as a direct and proximate result of defendant's wrongful conduct, which began in the fall of 2020 and continued to present. Jane Doe first met defendant Combs in the fall of 2020 at an overseas location. Jane Doe was invited on a trip with defendant Combs, in which defendants paid for Jane Doe's transportation to and from said overseas location. In December of 2020, Jane Doe and defendant Combs met again in early 2021. Jane Doe and defendant Combs began seeing each other regularly. Throughout 2021 and 2022, approximately once per month, defendant Combs and or his employees, including but not limited to Chief of Staff Christina Coram. Now, Christina is somebody that definitely has been on the radar. When we're talking about somebody who could flip, it would be Christina. She would, in my opinion, she's allegedly a co-conspirator. So because she knows where all the bodies are buried and has dealt with everybody, like everybody, from Dawn to Cat, like she's been around. If she flips on Diddy, it's a wrap. So even naming her in this is another little nudge to her that she needs to do the right thing. Remember that name, Christina Coram. and agents would arrange and pay for Jane Doe's travel to defendant Combs' homes in Los Angeles, New York, Miami, and other cities. Additionally, we said that they got 90 different devices. I would not be surprised if her device, which should definitely be discoverable, was one of those 90 devices. Jane Doe would also travel with defendant Combs at his request, which defendant Combs and or his employees and agents would arrange, and which was paid for by defendant Combs and or one of his corporate entities. Jane Doe's travel to and with defendant Combs did not happen on her own volition. Defendant Combs and his agents and employees would use coercive and harassing language to compel her to comply. Defendant Combs and or his agents and employees would send drivers to her home to pick her up before she agreed to travel, to the point where Jane Doe did not believe she had a choice. Defendant Combs and his agents and employees not only used language and tactics to force Jane Doe to act against her will, she was also unwillingly drugged with alcohol and unknown substances. Lorraine, thank you so much for joining the membership. Guys, we got over 1,600 in the chat. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If not, definitely like the video. Let's try to get to 1,000 likes as quickly as possible. This is breaking news, and I don't think it's anywhere else on YouTube just yet. Defendant Combs and or his agents would send drivers to her home to pick her up before she agreed to travel. Mind you, before she agreed to travel. That doesn't seem like you have a choice. Imagine you have something else to do, and all of a sudden, Diddy's goons are allegedly at your house telling you you're about to be going overseas. You're about to be going to Miami. You're about to be going to New York. I want to repeat that. Defendant Combs and or his agents and employees would send drivers to her home to pick her up before she agreed to travel, to the point where Jane Doe did not believe she had a choice. In April of 2022, defendant Combs forced Jane Doe to have vag intercourse without her consent while she was at his home in Los Angeles. In spring of 2022, plaintiff visited defendant Combs in Miami. On one morning, she woke up and her feet were purple and bruised, and she had a bite mark on her heel. Jane Doe did not know how she sustained those injuries. So you're biting her feet. So a trigger warning at this point, if you're new to the channel, if you're not new to the channel, you kind of know that these things, they can get kind of graphic. And this is not for everybody to consume, just FYI. In July of 2022, Jane Doe traveled at defendant Combs' command to his home in Los Angeles. While in defendant Combs' bathroom, Jane Doe was compelled to ingest an unknown substance. Jane Doe later learned it was or contained the drug ketamine and or other substances which caused Jane Doe to black out and lose consciousness intermittently throughout the night. Jane Doe did not consent to ingesting ketamine and other substances. So I think on the black market, it's called Special K. We'll let you guys know what it does to a person. Drug fact sheets. It's like a cat tranquilizer, y'all. Ketamine can induce a state of sedation, feeling calm and relaxed, immobility, relief from pain, and amnesia. So I want to double back. When we were listening to when I was reading aloud the last victim's complaint, she said that after she had kind of like thrown up in her mouth, he just picked another hole. Then the hole he picked after she released her bowels, he just picked another hole. So if you are forcibly doing this to these people and they are in some kind of pain, if you're giving them ketamine, it's telling us right here, you won't feel it. It's abused for its ability to produce dissociative sensations and hallucinations. Ketamine has also been used to facilitate sexual assault. It's right there in the verbiage. It's like a cat tranquilizer or a horse tranquilizer or something like that. It was particularly used in veterinary clinics. So, I think if you just hear something, it becomes normalized. Whereas if we can put it into context, that's what it's there for. That's what it does to you. If I'm taking advantage of you and you don't feel it until the next morning, or you won't have the ability to fight the person off you, that's what this is. We're not gonna I can't sugarcoat this shit anymore. Not that I ever did, but it is what it is. If these people have the courage to come forward, at least I don't have to mince my words anymore. I can tell you guys what it is. Jane Doe later learned that it was or contained the drug ketamine and or other substances, which caused Jane Doe to black out and lose consciousness intermittently throughout the night. Jane Doe did not consent to ingesting ketamine and or other substances. Shortly thereafter, Jane Doe took a pregnancy test, which was positive. Jane Doe informed Defendant Combs of the positive test. Caresha, Defendant Combs' associate, harassed Jane Doe by repeatedly calling her and telling Jane Doe to terminate the pregnancy. Again, I'm not reading these things beforehand. I'm reading it. We're getting the same experience from this. If Caresha did this shit, you are definitely part of the problem. I don't know that this is. I see a lot of people saying Gina. I'm kind of with you. We do know that Caresha was harassing Gina, saying, if I want you to, I could tell, what she call him, Poppy, to tell you to come eat my pee, and you would do it. So we know that there's some bad blood between Gina and Young Miami. Gina is the young lady who went on Tasha K, and she was one of the first people to say, Puffy is putting his hands on me. Wow. Caresha was allegedly harassing this girl. Jane Doe suffered a miscarriage and did not speak to Defendant Combs or his team for approximately 3 months. In late 2022, Defendant Combs resumed communication with Jane Doe and began compelling her to travel with him and to him. Defendant Combs would harass Jane Doe through calls, texts, and third parties until she complied. Now, I do remember in Gina's story, she said that she got pregnant by Diddy. This was before in the 2020s. She got pregnant by Diddy, and Diddy forced her to terminate the pregnancy. She did, and then he just kind of left her alone. She thought that he would be there for her, and it wasn't until, she had healed up and done all that, he just picked up like nothing had ever happened. Some people are saying it's not Gina. I don't know who this is technically. In late 2022, Defendant Combs resumed communications with Jane Doe and began compelling her to travel with him and to him. Defendant Combs would harass Jane Doe through calls, texts, and third parties until she complied. At every visit, Defendant Combs would make her perform a show for him and would ply her with alcohol and substances until she passed out. She would wake up with bruising and injuries, but with no recollection of how she sustained her injuries. This continued until July of 2024. Now, when we read the indictment, they said specifically that somebody who was working with the feds recorded a phone call from Diddy, where Diddy was telling her that everything that we did was consensual. Remember, we were just having fun. You liked it. She recorded that call and took it to the feds. I wonder if it's this Jane Doe. At every visit, Defendant Combs would make her perform a show. Okay, in July of 2024, Defendant Combs commanded Jane Doe to his home in Miami. Wait, that's just like a couple months ago. When Jane Doe arrived at his home in Miami, Defendant Combs shoved 2 pills in Jane Doe's mouth. During the July 2024 encounter, Jane Doe tried drinking water, but it tasted strange and it made her feel unwell. Guys, we got like 3,000 in the chat. Let's try to get to 1,500 likes. Again, this is breaking news. I don't think it's anywhere else on YouTube so far, just like TMZ, I believe. See how I give TMZ credit when TMZ and those people don't give me, but that's okay. During the 2024 encounter, Jane Doe tried drinking water, but it tasted strange and it made her feel unwell. The next morning, Jane Doe felt ill and confused and could not remember what happened the night before, and the bedroom was in disarray. Throughout the 4 years, defendant Combs would consistently pressure Jane Doe, adding other men and women into the bedroom, despite Jane Doe being clear that she did not want others involved. Defendant Combs would continually prompt and pressure Jane Doe into using illicit substances and giving her illicit substances without her knowledge or consent. Defendant Combs would make threatening jokes to Jane Doe that caused Jane Doe to fear for her safety if she did not comply with Defendant Combs' demands. On occasions, Jane Doe was forced to witness Defendant Combs slap and abuse other women. Spiritual Gangster, happy Friday, y'all. Another one. Okay. We know Caresha was doing something. She seemed little loose lips upstairs. I hope she's compelled to testify. John Henry, thanks for the super sticker. You're amazing. Keep up all the good work. I want to become a member, but it doesn't show how on your page. In the description box of every video will be a link to the membership. I definitely appreciate you, Mr. Henry. And Tracy, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you. Caresha ain't the sharpest tool. Is that what somebody said? On occasions, Jane Doe was forced to witness Defendant Combs slap and abuse other women. On multiple occasions, Jane Doe became aware that Defendant Combs and/or his agents or employees were tracking her location and/or monitoring her conversations, as Defendant Combs would refer to the statements made by Jane Doe when he was not present. She began checking her phone after each meeting with Defendant Combs. That is some scary stuff. Diddy would refer to statements made by Jane Doe when he was not present. So she's on the phone with a friend. She might use a catchphrase. She might say something about Diddy, and Diddy says it back to her. That's where the baby mama comes in, Love's mom. They say that she's a cybersecurity expert. There's allegations that he continuously had Kim Porter followed and or monitored and had hidden cameras in her home. During their time together, Defendant Combs would discourage her from working. When Jane Doe would attempt to assert her independence, Defendant Combs would instead pay her an allowance, which he used to control her as she cut back on working. Jane Doe was afraid of what Defendant Combs would do if she said no. Y'all, I'm thinking now specifically about that indictment. The person who recorded Diddy, they said she was on the payroll. This tracks. This lines up. This Jane Doe, I would not be surprised if this Jane Doe is the Jane Doe listed in the indictment. We were having a good time, Diddy told her. It was all in good fun. You wanted it. It was consensual. Remember, when they ask you this, tell them that it was consensual. We had fun. We had a good time. We're friends. He keeps saying that. We're friends. My friends don't punch me or force me to do drugs. Defendant Combs would instead pay her an allowance, which he used to control her as she cut back on working. Jane Doe was afraid of what Defendant Combs would do if she said no. Now, this also tracks with him telling her, "You're coming." So it's not like she's at work. He knows where she's at, allegedly, because he's tracking her. Then he can just send people to go get her, put her on a plane so that he can have a freak off with her in whatever country, city he's in at the moment, and then send her back. She doesn't remember. She just knows that she leaves these freak offs with bruises. Defendant Combs and his agents, at his request, will record sexual encounters with Jane Doe without her permission. Defendant Combs and his employees' actions caused Jane Doe to have anxiety, depression, and fear for her safety. To date, Defendant Combs continues to contact Jane Doe in attempts to control her actions autonomy and would restrict her speech through harassment, intimidation, and other tactics. Defendant Combs has caused Jane Doe to fear for her safety, and this is why the plaintiff is requesting to file this action under a pseudonym. Accordingly, Jane Doe has suffered physical abuse, emotional abuse, trauma, injury, psychological damage, financial injury, reputational injury, and damage as a result of the defendant's intentional, negligent, and criminal actions. I want to get back to Caresha really quickly. It's one thing for Caresha to be, what did she say? She was a real ass whore, RAW, and, she's down with it. And she continuously says that Diddy never hit her. Some of the other allegations, it wasn't her. It's something else to tell another woman that you need to terminate your pregnancy. Did Diddy put this up to you? Or is this a situation where, like with Love, because Love was born how many years ago? Is she like 2 yet? So this lady, if it isn't Love's mom, let's think about this. It could be Love's mom. No, she lost the baby. Sorry. Love's mom had the baby, of course. This particular lady lost the baby. So it's definitely not Love's mom. But Caresha definitely was embarrassed when Diddy showed up with the new baby. So, and she also said she wasn't surprised. So is that because there was already somebody you were telling to terminate a pregnancy? This is some dark, twisted stuff, y'all. Specifically, co-defendants enabled, condoned, had knowledge of, and failed to present or mitigate defendant Combs' commission of the above-mentioned crimes of violence motivated by gender, and therefore are also liable. Sue everybody, man. I think sometimes when we're talking about these things, what gets lost in translation is, well, if somebody is a willing participant, if you are a willing participant, then why do you sue now? You're only suing because you want money. We continuously hear that. And that's people's opinion, and it's fine. If she was fine with sleeping with Diddy without drugs, and he slipped drugs into her drinks, into her water, and allowed other people to have sex with her when she was immobilized, that's the problem. I can't stress that enough. The issue is consent. I can consent to sleep with you. I don't have to consent to the drugs. I don't have to consent to you having somebody else, eat me or whatever. Once the consent is taken, then that is where Diddy is at fault. You could be Caligula. You could have as many group sessions as you want, as long as the consenting adult says yes. There's something fundamentally wrong when we hear all of these allegations of people taking advantage of, and the first thing you hear is, they gave me something to black out. Why would you need to be immobilized to have intercourse with somebody? That doesn't even make sense. Unless you are doing something to them that under normal circumstances, they would not allow you to do. We just read where ketamine makes it easy for sexual assault because you are immobile and you don't feel the pain. And it causes amnesia, no memories of events while under the influence of this drug. You could do whatever you want. Diddy could be pussy popping on a handstand in the corner with somebody else and you wouldn't know. They just come to you when they want to use your body. That's not intercourse. That's not sex. That's not two like-minded individuals getting together and having adult time. That is somebody who is fundamentally off. I cannot say that enough. This just popped off. I don't even have the video that I was working on. I couldn't even finish it. So that video will come either tonight or tomorrow. I just got this book in, guys. Basically, this is like a pamphlet. I don't believe the pamphlet, but this was given to me. So I think I'll be reading it with my sister on her channel. I'll let you guys know. Maybe tomorrow evening will be a good. It's just a pamphlet, y'all. A best-selling pamphlet. I don't believe it, but you guys have said some of you guys want to hear it, so it'll be on Reddit Lane. I will shoot a link to her channel. She has agreed, and we'll just kind of review it. If it doesn't seem real, we'll talk about what doesn't seem real. But I definitely really want to get to that conversation on humiliation rituals. There's some stuff it goes deep, and we really got to get into it. Stargal, thank you so much for joining the membership. And Lorraine Thomas, thank you so much for joining the membership. Guys, we got over 4,000 in the chat. Definitely hit that like button. There was something else that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Oh, okay. So this one will be quick. Let me show you this. Okay, here we go. I told you guys that not everybody is wealthy. Not everybody not everybody has the money to defend. Some of these sex workers, male and female, are being compelled to testify, and they need attorneys. So when I saw this, that was the first thing that I thought. It says the Busby Law Firm has been associated by the Ava Law Group to act as lead counsel to pursue claims on behalf of more than 50 individuals who suffered sexual assault and abuse at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs and his cohorts. This group of brave individuals include both men and women. Many were minors when the abuse occurred. Mind you, it is far-reaching. I was talking to somebody yesterday about some of this stuff, and they feel like, oh, this is just a distraction from the election. No, these people have survived sexual assault and really horrific things, and their stories deserve to get told. Period. It's not about, oh, look over here and don't look at the election, or, people just trying to take another black man down. It's definitely not that. At this point, we can kind of see. I know the straight shooters understand. This is not about that. This is about getting justice for people, for a large amount of people who have been allegedly violated by this man. This group of brave individuals include both men and women. Many were minors when the abuse occurred. Some of these brave individuals reported the incidents to the police, others did not. Each individual story is gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. The acts complained of occurred at hotels, private homes, and also at the infamous P. Diddy FreakOFFS parties. The violations against this group of individuals are mind-boggling and can only be described as debauchery and depravity exacted by powerful people against minors and the weak. I expect the group seeking redress will grow as this case progresses. I expect many other individuals will be implicated. We expect to have a press conference early next week where some of these stories can be told as the nation learns more and grapples with the potential scope of this scandal. Our firm has always been at the forefront of the most important cases in the United States. We are proud to represent this group of brave souls and pray for justice on their behalf. If you know any individuals seeking assistance who was abused as described above, please don't hesitate to encourage them to contact our firm. The consultation is confidential. At the end of this ninja gonna be broke. Even if he wins some of these cases, the amount of billable hours that these attorneys are clocking is crazy. Anitra, I would have been scared too until he got locked up and then filed the lawsuit. Absolutely. It's bigger than Diddy though. Yes, it is bigger than Diddy. We're going to get into that in my ritual conversation, but there is a celebrity who said something and I thought it was extremely impactful. And we're going to have to talk about that. Does he have charges in Florida too? I looked. Because Diddy has so many different homes, they can still use New York. And New York is the Southern District of New York specifically is where most of all of the money in the United States comes in and out. So you really want the Southern District of New York to take this case. You really want the Southern District. Do you see how they just did the mayor? Did he got to save his money for commissary? I'm sure Caresha's putting money on his books. Apparently she's in it. If you're just coming in, The allegation is Caresha was very comfortable enough to tell another woman who was in a freak off to go ahead and terminate the pregnancy. So, have I looked up GHB? I know what GHB is. GHB is date R word. That one will definitely knock you out. You again will have no memory of it. They slip. Oh, if you're talking about for the baby oil conversation, I've reached out to a chemist to see if GHB is soluble in baby oil, and if contact with if it absorbs into the skin. So you guys wanted me to fact check that rumor. I'm definitely on that. But anyway, yeah, I gotta run. I have some other things to do. If anything else, if any other news breaks, I'll be here. If not, I will see you guys tomorrow. I really want to get into that ritual video. Like, that's some stuff that will blow your mind. Y'all have a good day. Like I said, if anything else pops off, I'll see you tomorrow. Other than that, stay safe and remember, stay away from Diddy. Bye, y'all.